See, maybe not. No.
Because, I mean, I don't come from a farming background. I don't come from a farming background. And I learned a lot.
Did David? Did your husband?
David,
Yeah.
here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I, yeah.
That's funny. I bet it was. I bet it was.
Do another round of raffles.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
And we're gonna do a live auction. Maureen said she talked to you about the Kenai book.
That I would do that, yeah. What do you think?
Because I've never been. Better than when I'm home alone.
All right, everybody grab your red tickets. We're gonna do another drawing. Which, by the way, as you're grabbing your red tickets, I want to remind you of the sign-up sheets. If you haven't yet decided which committee you're going to be part of, because everyone's going to be part of a committee, right? Go ahead, because if you don't fill one, I can put your name on here myself. All right. Okay, one of our sponsors this year is Redmond Products. I don't know, is anyone familiar with Redmond's Real Salt? Yeah, so they were generous to sponsor this event. And so they donated some materials for us as well as.
Catalog back on that little round table, so take a catalog.
I know a lot of people swear by their garlic, infused salt. Handle, and it helps with flies. We haven't tried it yet.
Oh, Lord God.
Okay, so. Four prizes, get your pick. The number is 937-015.
Oh, she's got a name. Which one?
Very similar.
Pretty good. Never that. We'll let her make right up there. What is she gonna No, you're not. Everybody is good.
Just fill that out, check that you need it, and then you'll read about this stuff.
All right, next one. 937-027.
Go bigger, go
Next one, 937-029. Oh, look at that.
You know, it could be parents just sending it.
Last one gets this real salt container, filled with real salt. 937-001. Season your steaks.
The best.
So our board leadership decided they were gonna make an executive decision and has decided this will be a live auction. So we will do actual auctioneering. So let me say it this way. Is anyone here a licensed auctioneer or knows how to auction?
Only license.
Yeah, well, license would be better, but can talk real fast. If not, I'll be doing this later.
To sign it, make sure you sign this book by 4 o'clock, so it can go up as an auction. What a great item is that gonna be? It's a piece of history.
It was donated by John Keep.
Yes, that is so awesome.
Thank you, John.
Reed, you got any announcements?
Nope, Michelle, we took care of them.
Okay, oh, and I will just give an update. For that beef marketing information, I talked to our speaker and I do have information that I think at this point, what we're gonna do is post it to our website after the meeting. So I've got an hour-long video that she did record for another group she talked at. And she said it was basically a lot of the same information, so at least you'll get that after the meeting, so just look for that on our website. And see that video.
Committee sign-ups and ranch raffles, you can still buy tickets.
Yes, and you can still buy tickets for the ranch raffle back there.
And maybe,
Dale Theater.
should we pass those papers around again?
No, we want them to.
Oh, okay.
Are we still waiting? Are you ready? All right.
We're ready to go. All right, this, NCHCA code,
You are.
PVC.
Did you check, did you test it?
Yeah, did not. Let me try it. Did it work?
You know,
Okay, that worked.
Yep. Now, what I'll tell you about it going in, it's not gonna be great on your phone. It's,
gotcha.
it's a lot of data and small, and then when we start to zoom in, it kind of gets messy. So really, it's an analytic, the tool is an analytic, so it displays best on pad or a big screen. Yes,
You okay if I post your stuff on the website?
absolutely.
Okay, so when this is all done, you need to download it. It will be on the website.
All right,
All right. Oh, which one do we want to start with, John?
let's use the operable one. And, the one you're looking at, does the URL say 013126?
You want this or you want the website?
We'll start with this.
Okay.
Anybody confirm what the URL has that in there? Now, here's what happened. When the 26 data came in, I had to ingest it. When I did, the existing URL, when I tried to change the new dashboard to the existing URL, the data was still hung up in my cache and I wasn't displaying it. So I just put the date on it for now. As a holding place, and so if you wanna look at 26 data, it's gotta have that 013126 in it. It has it. We're good. So we have 26 data, that's great. All right, how do we visualize the data? So Aqua is the data on your website, that's the link, and that's what it looks like. When you get here, this is what it looks like. This is from some day or some year, show year, and here you can see these are the ones we're interested in. Everything else doesn't have the information, so we gotta get rid of it. So that's what you're dealing with on each page, each link that you click on. So trying to analyze the data is impossible. At least on a whole. If you're looking for something specific from a specific year, it's pretty easy. So the dashboard we put together here, it has 6 tabs. Background information, traits and trends, so static. But you can select different traits and it'll show you, so it doesn't display all the data. Every time you display this data, the computer has to go do the processing. So it's not displayed automatically. You click on the checkbox and it displays it. Then you can look at the division, each division, and look at the traits by division. Once you found something in that division, you can go look at a specific goal. And then I built this tab 5 because I was always looking and saying, okay, my goal is he was born on March 21st of 24. What is he going to be? Where is he now? And where does he compare to the data that we have, right? So what I was looking for at the time was where do I sit among his peers? So although he's not in that data set, I can see his peers are here and I'm either below or in the in the mix or above. And so that's why I wrote down how old is my bowl, and it gives you some cool displays. And then, the feed conversion calculator, I put in there, I started looking at how much am I feeding and when I do my, weigh-ins, what am I getting, what kind of gains am I getting off that feed? So I found these feed conversion calculators and, put them in there. And I have two of them in there, one's feed conversion ratio and efficiency, they're kind of the same. I think I'm gonna still do some more on them. So those are the 6 tabs that are available on the dashboard. This is tab 1. Is all information. All the information we talked about this morning is in there without pictures. But we kind of talk about why, or how we got the data, the decisions we made, and we talked about that earlier. How do we sort it? And then there's a list of the divisions from, or the National Western. I'm not sure who makes those divisions, but they're meaningful. And then the summaries of the traits that we're looking for and why they're important. And so you can read through that if it's of interest. All right, so box plots. Has anybody seen a box plot before? Mark must have. So what this does is it takes all the data and it kind of quantifies it into a box. This is going to be your lowest minimum value. This is everything below 25%. This is the median value, which is everything below 50%. 75% and max value. There is some cases where you'll see a max value for whatever reason that shows up as a dot that's outside the norm. So you can look at that as an anomaly. You'll see some of those. I'm not sure it's here, but if we bring up the dashboard, you'll see. This kind of explains how the box plot works. All right, so tab 2. So tab 1. Just information, background information, and we just talked about box plots, which you're seeing here. So this is the, this is the trends. So this trend right here, what I have showed here is the trends of stock show entries by weight. I think it's weight, or by division. No, weight. Reported weights by division. So this shows you the weights. Is it what you expect to see? As the animal gets older, he gets bigger, right? Things that stand out is this, that,
Oh, yeah.
right? So when you look at it, you go, oh, who's that intermediate bull with, I want to look at that guy, right? Because he outweighs the whole division. If that's what you're looking for. What else is on this slide?
John, is this being presented by year or is this the entire data set?
This is the entire data set by division.
So like all the years you've been doing
Yes.
it by division?
So 2012 to 2026 minus 17 and 21 by division. Because what we want to look at, what I wanted to look at, and if other people have ideas of what they want to look at, I think I could do it, but I don't have that idea, so I need somebody to tell me. What I wanted to look at was specifically, I put this together before I put together how old is my bull. So what I did was I was figuring out how old is my bull, and then go and looking at this chart and say, oh yeah, he fits right in here. So he's below the median, but he's in the ballpark. He's competitive. I would argue down here, you're not competitive. Right, there's no point showing up. So these are the values that we'll see trends on in the dashboard. So I got the weight, the age, weight, everything you see.
And these are all registered items.
These are all polls that are registered and shown. Yeah, they will be shown. It's possible they didn't get shown, but they went through the ultrasound, they went through the weight check, they had their scrotal measures, and they were at the stock show. So they're all show goals.
On the divisions, do you have a population of each of those sets?
I do. I will see it
I do.
right here. So this is the intermediate bull count. this is a pull down menu that has all the divisions. And when you go into the division and, when you select your division, it'll automatically calculate these values. So how many animals are in the division? What's the minimum age, maximum age, and, average age. I used average here, not median. Average weight. I think that's REA, I can't really read it. REA per 100. Average daily gain. I'm not sure what that, average
Can you
IMF.
read it?
So I averaged all those, the things I was interested in, what's the min max weight and the average and the ADT, it's kind of important. So and these pull downs are going to be your X and Y for the plot that shows up on the next chart. So you can pull down this menu, select what you want. So if you want to compare, let's say, you wanted to compare age and days to weight. The age and days to weight. That's your X and Y. Okay, so we're going to talk about scoring again. So I explained to you the dilemma I had about how I make sense of any of these polls. And so I came up with the score. So that's the scoring values I use, or traits that I'm using. And what I did was I sorted in the division, I sorted all the bowls 1 to N. So in this case, we know there's 47 bowls in this division. So if you look at REA score, it goes 1 to 47. And so I did, the way I sorted it was a reverse sort. So the lowest got the lowest number, and the highest got the highest number. So if you had the biggest REA, you would be 47. So like this guy here is 12.72, he's 46. So I saved that value. Then I sorted it by REA per 100, same thing. And then I sorted by average daily gain, same thing, and then IMF. Then what I did, you can see, like, if we look at the first line, you got 38, 47, 27, and 45, and I summed them and gave it a score. And then then you just sort the score, and you know, okay, these bowl scores mean this. So if I'm interested in those values, that's what I'm going. Now, after 2020, I discounted back fat until I did the research for the first slides that I showed you. I discounted back fat as a factor in scoring the bowls. And I looking back on it, I think it's a mistake. I am going to go back and figure out a way to include that, because it definitely affects your yield. And so it affects the value of the carcass. So you got to remember when you're looking at this data right now, that's not factored in. But I always thought, well, in the hunting community, we don't put on back fat because we do paramuscular fat, or intramuscular fat. But there is, you'll see, there is some animals that have some pretty good back fat, greater than 0.4. So anyhow, that's how we came up with the score. Back fat? Well, depends on who you talk to, but it counts against your, remember, primary yield grade is the amount of back fat. So if you're 0.4 or greater, you're yield graded, you're automatically yield grade 3, and then you gotta grow yourself out of that with a ribeye. But so it is considered a negative on the carcass, but then it depends on what you want to do with that back fat, right? And maybe you have a use for it, lard, or not lard, but tallow. You know, if they have value there, it depends on the producer and what he wants to do with the data, or with the
yield.
But from a selling point to your customer, order, you're probably gonna have a better deal,
you'd want a better yield.
but you're gonna, with a lower back fat.
Yes, yes, and they're not going to be disappointed.
So like you said, it just depends on your end.
Yes, yes. All right, so in this is, So we looked at the top part, I showed you X, Y, this is what we're gonna select. In this case, we selected, REA per hundred. So days old and REA per hundred. So we got this chart of dots, and I think this is where some people might go, well, all right, so, once again, you can pull down menus, so you can select whatever you want. And then this is the spreadsheet that's presented of all the bowls in that division, sorted by bowl score. And then you have these values. So the color code for the values is the year. The size of the bubble is the weight.
Okay.
When you hover over the bubble, you'll get this pop-up box. And the pop-up box will have the X and Y values. I think it has the weight and the measurement here. So if you change X and Y values, then the values in that bubble will change. But what it allows you to do is quickly look at a division, depending on what you're looking for, and find interesting animals that you might be interested in. Generally, in the chart, depending on how you plot the data, generally what you're looking for is values in the top left. Because let's say you had weight versus REA on this chart. Well, depending on the age, you want the biggest weight, the biggest REA, so it's gonna be in the top left. You might want the biggest weight in the lowest age. And so it'd be some problem. This spreadsheet here is sortable. You can click on any of the columns and it'll sort the whole data sheet by whatever you clicked on. Anything you missed there? I think we got it all. All right, tab 4. This is where you do your individual bowl analysis. So all the bowls are in this list. So this list is not divisions. This is a list of everything. And so you can just scroll through this list and find the one so you find one. Typically what I found is you find an animal from the division analysis. You go, oh, it's interesting. Oh, look at him. Hover over it, tells you who it is. And you come over here and just look them up. One of the things that is really useful is when you see these, like this Fergus, he shows up 2 times. So that means he's been at stock show twice, been through the protocol twice. And so you can look at how that bull has progressed. And there's a lot of value in that because you can see maybe he started out as not such a great animal, but in the next year he did progress. Or one of the ones I was looking at, it was a junior yearling bull who showed up in the senior bull the next year. And when you look at him, a single data point, you look at him as a senior bull, you look at him and he's not that great. His REA is 1 or REA per 100 is 1 or 0.9. And so you look at it and you go, that's not what I'm really interested in. But when you look at him as a yearling or a junior, who's a junior yearling bull, he was like 1.8, and that's harvest age. So that might be what you want, depending on what you're doing, right? If you're saying, I want to grow animals that are going to get there quickly, have these traits that I'm looking for, then he might be one that you're looking for, that you want to include. And you don't really care what he looks like as a senior bull because they're never going to get there. And so that's how you have to consider the data. Anyhow, here's your list. And it shows you what class he's in. So if he shows up twice, you can go look at him twice. I haven't created a way to say, let me look at both of them at the same time. All right, so this is what you get when you selected a bull. I selected this RTH Grissom because I think he's the best bull I've seen in all the data I've looked at. If anybody knows Rod and Terry, Rod is a carcass breeder. He knows what he's doing there. And this Grissom bull, to me, I don't know where he showed up like as a senior bull, because never got shown, but he's an incredible bull. At least from the numbers, I'll show you that. So once again, I show you the box plots information here. But let's go look at the chart. So the blue bubble is Grissom. The box plot is how he compares to his peers in the division. You see, this is full score at the top, so that's my ranking of him, which is pretty high. But then you look at him in REA per 100. This is IMF. I think that's weight, average daily gain, and weight. Age,
Oh, wow.
right? So when you look at that, you go, that's the bull I want. Where's he? Well, he was purchased at a stock show by the guy that raises commercials in Nebraska, and he's got no progeny.
Hmm.
But that's a problem. So that's what analysis of a single bull looks like. Really, what I'd love to be able to do is you click on that, and it goes out to the ACA website and brings you a page back with all the the genetics, and so you can see, first of all, you can see who owns them, but then you can see where you come from, right? This, one of the things here, once again, what I talked about earlier, one of the things I would like to look at is not that's how does he pass his genetics? Is he influencing his progeny? But if he's not, who is his sire and dam? Because they're producing a good animal, and so that's what I'm really interested in. And so being able to click in there and go back to the database and get that information quickly is really useful. But the way the website's set up, they block it out.
Down here, find any that have multiples, so you can actually see the sire data as well. Say you found a bull, and then you went back previous years, maybe his sire was there any of that?
Was there a sire of a bull that's in this?
Yeah. They also have you can have 2 generations of data.
That is a great question, and I have not looked for that.
There should be some.
Yeah.
There is one, for sure, I know that.
Who is it?
Our bull that we're showing right now.
Jolie?
Yeah, because Encore was grand champion in.
All right, we can look at him if we bring the dashboard up, we can look at that. That's a good, that's a great question.
More, but.
Yeah.
He's been showed, probably he's been showed for.
Yes.
Cheap, more data points, yeah.
More data. Mhm.
Those are the kind of questions I like to hear, like, well, hey, have you looked at this? Because I only look at things, single point of reference, right? I know what I'm interested in, that's a great question. All right, so how old is my bull? You put in your birth date, and then you put in your projected date that you're interested in. The default is today, but one of the things I want to do is say, okay, where do I need to be at stock show?
Mhm.
So here's where I'm at today. So stock show is the first Thursday after Martin Luther King, so it's going to be on 22 January. So I plug that in, and it tells me how old he'll be at that date. Then it gives you a chart of all the bulls. It tells you what division you're going to be in. It tells you how old he's going to be, but it also tells you what division you're going to be in. And it shows the weight on all the bulls in that division. So you got weight versus days old. So how old am I? 665. I'm going to be down here. And so I want to look, what weight am I at? Oh, yeah, this 665, generally 12 to 1,300 pounds is the middle of the scale. You look, you go, who's that guy? Or who's that? These are things that pop out at you when you start looking at the data. And so the only purpose of this was to help the user who is interested in knowing how does his animal that he has to wait on compare to his show bull peers. Now, there's biases in that too because of feedback.
Mhm.
I think we're good on that. All right, and then the final chart here is the feed conversion calculator. I did this because I wanted to see, I saw when I was doing the research for talk, this is back in September when I was supposed to do it over Zoom. I wanted to see, if I'm feeding 15 pounds a day and I'm getting a gain of whatever, 3 pounds a day or 2 pounds a day, what is that ratio? Because it's important to the producer to, especially beef, show animals not so much of a big deal, but it's important. If I can get an animal to market with the lowest inputs because I'm using genetics that grow fast, well, then I'm interested in that. So if I can look at I can't really do that against animals that are in the show world because I don't own them. If I can look at my own animals and say, he's not producing. Or here is where, one of the things I read in Cowman's, I had a quote in there, the Canadian Highland Breeders Guide, was that they saw trends where they didn't, this is one of the, I forget what the name of the outfit was, one of the big Canadian ones. They saw, when they first got into the Highlands, they didn't think it was going to work because they weren't getting the growth. But there was a period of time when they all outgrew. So they went from like less than a kilo a day to almost 2 kilos a day during this period. So if you can find those periods where that's happening, it's useful information. So what you do here is you put in, I made this downloadable too. So you can put in your bull's name, put in your start date and your current weight, or current weight date. So we weighed today, let's say, put in your start weight, and then your current weight, and then how many pounds you're feeding per day. Now, for this, for my calculations, I'm considering this to be a pail of grain, so not dry hay. So I'm putting 10 pounds of grain a day in here, and then you run the calculator, and it reports back. This is what I did. Here's your period. So here's the period of how many days you had. Here's your average, your start-stop weight that you reported. Here's what the calculated gain is, and here's your average daily gain for the period of time. And then this guy, I fixed this in the dashboard. I was getting these help things, and I fixed that. But basically, it'll tell you how many pounds you fed them total over the period. So if I did 10 pounds a day over 74 days, so I'm around 40 pounds. And then you divide this out. This is gain, I think, divided by the amount of feed. And then this is average daily gain by amount of feed per day. It's kind of the same number. There is some other numbers for calculations or equations for efficiency that I'm going to go look at and maybe fix that, because typically I'll see 6.48, 6.49, which is basically the same number. But and the number you're looking for is, according to USDA, 4.4 to 7.5 is the window that you want to see for your feed conversion efficiency. So if the higher the number, the more you're putting into your animal to get the gain. This shows you the two equations. And then this is an example here that I pulled this off one of the websites, but it gives you an example of the yield of the animal based on its intake. And so, everything in a beef production program, everything should be cost-based, like how much am I putting in and what am I getting out? And so those are important, but I think those are important no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
Unless, sometimes in the show world it doesn't matter because if you have that,
Hit your Bailey usage cost us money.
you just spend money.
Yeah, he says 10 pounds of feed a day. That's not hay. He's also
He
eating
doesn't.
hay.
So that's
I
it
know
for
how heavy those
the,
bales are.
for the dashboard. So that's the Akashopo dashboard. So these are my thoughts on this. first of all, we don't have enough data. I think as an association or as a group of breeders or Highland breeders, people associated with the breed, we need to be thinking about doing more with understanding our data. Or getting data. I argue, at least my argument would be, we should be doing a lot more ultrasound testing. It's important. And being able to have, go ahead.
So, as, you know, how would I ultrasound? How would I go about?
Yeah, that's a problem. And so I think maybe it shows we should be hiring ultrasound techs to come out. I also believe we should not just be ultrasounding the bulbs. I think we should be looking at the females. And I'm not sure, like, in a cow-calf situation, do you really need to ultrasound the female because she's so old and she's not gonna grade or whatever? Still, I think it would be interesting to know, how big is her ribeye? And is she the influencer of this bull carcass? Or is, you know, knowing that you have this data now, and knowing where those two came from, if you had an ultrasound on the bull and you had an ultrasound on the female, and you look at it and you go, this can't be his influence because he doesn't have that, right? It's possible because you have two kids from the same parents and they look different sometimes. You look at embryos sometimes from the same breeding and then look
Arnold
different.
Schwarzenegger and Danny
So you
DeVito.
could really say
Can't
that's,
argue with that.
I can say without a doubt, that's the influence, but it seems to be, something seems. So good question. So not enough data. I don't think we focus enough on beef carcasses at all. I mean, you look at the steer shows, and barely gets anybody show up at a regional with steer. And then stock show, there's a handful. The steer data, when they do the carcass contest at the stock show, but the steer data is never published. It's not on the website, so you don't know. And typically there's a handful of steers. I would say everything I looked at is grading choice or select. So typically what's happening is the biggest animal is winning the carcass contest. So one of the roads I'm traveling down is I'm trying to produce a carcass that will grade prime, whether it's cross. I mean, obviously you probably have to start with cross, and my path is I bought some Wagyu F1s, and so I think I'm gonna get some marbling out of it. If you can grade prime, you're getting a huge increase in premium per 100 pounds. So it goes from, like, for choice, I think it was $8 per 100 pounds. And for prime, you go up to $19 per 100 pounds. And select is, I think select is a discount. So, or it might be zero. So if you could grade prime, you wouldn't have to have a 1,400 pound steer to win that carcass contest. You could do it with maybe a 900 pound steer that you have not put as much input into it, right? It didn't cost you as much to get there. And so, but it has more value than that. Well, potentially it could have more value than 1,500 pounds. Steer shows, so we talked about that. Carcass contest, we talked about. Ultrasound testing, we talked about. And then, I'm not sure how you fix that problem. You're talking to Mark, he's processing animals, and other people in here are processing animals and have observations about the carcasses and what they got or on their yield. But there's no real data to look at to say, hey, even in the breed, that these are high yield animals, let alone these genetics are preferable over these genetics for high yield. And so a bull test might do that. I mean, you guys talked about doing a bull test. I talked to Diane a while about doing maybe a steer test where maybe you could get steers, because we know this elephant in the room that there's way too many bulls out there in our breed.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you convince people to steer them and bring them to a steer test, and then we just start looking at how those animals perform and looking at their sire and dams, their bloodlines, and saying, hey, these from a steer perspective, these are genetic lines that seem to perform, and maybe encourage breeding them. Another thing is, I was getting in trouble here, but stock show at the sale, the only bulls they're selling is bulls that got a banner, and they're not necessarily the best carcass bulls. And so we are encouraging breeding from a smaller group of animals that are not potentially the best animals in our breed. The other thing you see, I don't know if I don't recall addressing it here, but it's that quote from the Canadian Highland breeder, where he talks about diversity. And one of the things he talks about is there's instinct in humans to follow the ball. And so the banner is there, so everybody goes and gets those genetics. And so when you look at certainly the bloodlines that show up at stock show, but in the show world in general, Gus, limited edition, Jockey Balloon, all great bulls. But our diversity in our genetics is shrinking, and we're rebreeding that back into those same genetics. And so we don't have that diversity of bloodlines, and if we're not promoting good carcass animals, well then our breed is not going to have good carcasses, and so we may be not doing a good service. That would be my take on it.
So true.
And so then I put some suggested talks here, and talking to a few people today, I got another couple ideas. That's something similar. And Jeff, I think it'd be great to have a talk on pasture management, planting, what to plant in your fields to get good growth, to improve your soil, all that kind of stuff. Other things, the feeding strategy. I know some people over here that have probably the best feeding strategy I've seen because their animals grow. Ultrasound tech, get an ultrasound tech in here to talk to you about how ultrasounds actually work.
Yeah.
I mean, I skimmed the surface there and just basically doing some research, but it would be interesting to get a tech in here and hear what they do and what they see across the board, across the industry, and then how that might apply to our breed, or what other breeds do that we might imitate. And then feed processing. So when I went to my family-owned meat processor, and I talked to him about grading, I just got a blank stare, like I don't even know what we're talking about. So it'd be great to get maybe someone from USDA or one of these big processing plants to come in and talk to you about this is how it works, and this is what you could do to get grading. And as a breed, I think it would be very, very useful to be able to point to data that says our beef is good. We got some studies, but they tend to be, I don't think definitive enough to point to and say, I can prove this. I've heard people say, and I've said it myself probably, oh, our beef is really tender, but I've had some tough pieces of beef. So I don't know that that's true. There may be genetics in our breed that are do produce. The other thing is, Mark talked to me about it a little bit, or maybe it was I forget her name.
Joe.
Randy. Genetic testing might be a thing to do too, and keep track of that data. We don't seem to do much of that. If we do, it's individual. Right, and so I might get one. I know that's it. The next slide is just the duty. Did we do the bull test dashboard?
I don't believe so. Thorben?
All right, this one's quick. So we already talked about where the data came from. Next slide. There we go. This is what the website looks like. You gotta go to this. There's a thing on the internet called the Wayback Machine. Anybody ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, she said it. The Wayback Machine is an internet archive. So over the years, they snapshot every website.
Wow.
And then when the websites go away, you can go to this web archive. It's called the Wayback Machine. And so when I was looking for Thor data, I found it on the Wayback Machine. And so they took a snapshot like every quarter, 6 months, something like that. And so this snapshot is probably from midway to when they quit, or maybe 75% to when they quit. But he put all his full test summaries in here, and they're very comprehensive summaries of what happened out there. And so what they did, the bull test they did, the animals were born in the year of the start of the test. So they brought them in December. So they were born in December of that year. So if we're doing one, it'd be December of 25. All bulls had to be born in December of 2025, and I believe they had to be 500 pounds to get in. So typically they're not born after summer. And so then they bring them in and they put them on a warm-up regimen just to get them settled. They had bulls coming in from Washington State. They had bulls coming in from New York, Vermont, Pennsylvania, Ohio. They're coming in from all over the place. So there's different trauma that these animals experience in their travels. So got them in, settled them for, I think it was 14 days. And then they did their first one. And then the test started. Put them on feed. He explains all that in the summaries, but put them on feed. They're all the same feed. They were sorted into groups by size. So they managed as well as they could competition between the animals. Back then they didn't use RFIDs. When I was talking to Josh about this, he said that the tests they were talking about doing, the animals have an RFID on them. So when they walked in and started eating, they knew that animal was eating and how much he ate. In this case, they were in pens and they just put in so much per pound per animal. And so who consumed it, we don't know. But in the test Josh was talking about, you can have a better, a little bit higher resolution of what happened. So it looks like this is the spreadsheet, right? And
All right, there we go.
you're right. And so that's the link to the test dashboard. When you look in here, you see they got Shire Dam. But then you see some are just numbers, and so you're like, I'm not sure what happened there. And so what happened there? There was crossbreds, there was commercial cows, commercial island cows, there's all kinds of stuff in there. So I filtered through it as best as I could, but I know I'm pretty confident I didn't get them all. So what I tried to distill it down to was just highlands. And I used various techniques to do that, but most of the bulls were not registered, so it made it difficult. But if you knew, like you could look these two up, you know, it was a archetype bull. So you're good. And then if you go to the other side of that spreadsheet, yeah, there. So you get the name, who owned it, or who brought it. Some of it tells you what type it was. They get your date of birth, your weights, all the benchmark weigh-ins. You got your average date, all the things so all the data we want. So you look at, oh, this is great. We got dates. We can use this. All we got to do is filter to get to the data we want. And then this is the dashboard. So this is a smaller implementation, but basically you got a summary here of how my summary of Joe's summaries. So the summary of how the thing went, how I filtered it. I took all the bulls and put them in, the same, they're all in one division because they're all the same age. So, so they're all on one list. And then this is the bulls by, I think this is age by year. Yeah, count. No, this is count by year. This is kind of interesting. So you see, it looks like the first year was the most, and then it kind of dropped off. In 2005, I didn't include because it was all Thorbarton, and a lot of it was Crosby. So that's the trends. And there's a bunch of charts there. They'll show you cool things. And maybe if we can put the dashboard up here, we can look at it. But one of the things you see is a bull. The first metric or the measurement, weight check, he's gaining 6 pounds a day. So you look at that and you go, wow, that's amazing. I've never seen that before. But then the next weigh in, he's down to 2.5, and then 2 something, and then 2 something. So he gained a lot the first weigh in, and then, but kept gaining weight. So it was just his rate of gains slowed. And so once again, there's biases in these measurements because it's possible that the first weigh-in, so they did the warm-up the first weigh-in, he didn't get water. And then the second weigh-in, he went in, went in with a full belly of water. And so it made him seem to have gained so much more, but he didn't actually gain that much. But then over time, he was a high gaining bull because he continued to put on that weight. He didn't lose weight. The next one is test data analysis. So this is kind of like the divisions. Here I've showed the bulls sorted by year. And what's on the Y here? REA per harm. So when you look at this, you can go, who's that? Who's that? That's the one I want. Right, so when you hover over that, you can see who it was. The problem that I had when I did who's that was I couldn't find him. So the thing to do is, you know who he is. You can go look at his parents and say, okay, but we're talking 25 years ago. So it's kind of, the data's kind of lost. That's important. If you're going to do this kind of stuff, we probably got to keep up with it. And then this bull analysis is the same as the other bull analysis, where you select the bull you're interested in, and it shows you the comparison for whatever that trade is. In this case, I think it's age. And I think that's it.
That it? Yeah, it must be.
Does anybody have any questions?
Have you looked like generally at other breeds, like the way we picture that, I guess like in general, sometimes I think if you're really serious about beef, people would not be racing.
That's true. Yeah. At least a commercial.
Right.
But if you can prove that you have the data to prove that you have a quality
Beef.
piece of beef, it's possible that you don't want to be in commercial. You want to be in boutique. I mean, the Queen has Highlands. The Queen was eating beef. There must have been a reason for it besides its nostalgia. And so, yes, if your only interest was beef production, you might be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I'm going to we want food, right? But we're in the breed because we love the breed. I think we have a great product in beef, and so yes, I would agree with your observation, but then it depends on how we apply it to what we're trying to accomplish.
Well, I think that's exactly why you have this data, for our breed, because we have to find a way to differentiate ourselves,
Mhm.
because we're not gonna be on the road in a factory.
So,
So you have to, if you're gonna do direct marketing, you gotta find,
Yeah.
you gotta find ways to direct market.
yes,
And these are the pieces that.
Yeah, you need it.
yeah, and so the problem, this is what I find challenging, is the problem is everybody in our breed. Be careful what I say. Almost everybody in our breed is doing trade with trade. Right, they're doing cow calf, raising the calf, raising the steer, if you're raising steer, raising the beef, whatever it is, and then marketing it the best they can.
Mhm.
And so in the real industry, it seems to me that there's cow calf operations and they take their progeny, take it into the sale barn, it goes into some grazer, and they raise them till the next phase, and then the meat buyer comes in and buys the steers, and they go to a feedlot, and then from there, they get processed, and so we don't have that, and so can we develop that? It would be kind of interesting to think about, or restaurants, hotels, the problem for the individual producer is that he or she has to be able to consistently deliver
Mhm.
to whoever his customer is at scale.
Yeah.
And so not only do you have to consistently deliver quantity, but you have to
Quality.
consistently deliver quality. And so that if you're doing the cradle to grave side,
Genetic testing.
becomes very,
gotta
very
help you
difficult.
get a-
And so my belief is it should be something we think about and maybe try to come up with strategies to, hey, how can we split this up? Is anybody interested in forming a cooperative to, to maybe sell or raise steers?
Hmm.
So, and prove that, okay, I can raise steers. At the same time, someone's looking for the outlet. Where can we send these animals since we've got them? Because I don't want to buy 100 steers, and I have nowhere to put them. So working on that, where we have an outlet to send them, besides donation. So I don't have the answer to that, but I think it's something we need to think about. If we're not going to just be a show business.
Mhm.
On the show side, it doesn't matter, right?
Mhm.
This data is good for that too, because if you're saying, well, I want to look for genetics that are fast growing, and I don't really want to show senior bulls anyhow. So who's the fastest growing junior yearling bull, right? That's what I want for. That's what the data's in.
Idea
Yes, sir.
for us that process our own animals nowadays. Close. That process our own animals. We normally have quite a association with our processor and so forth. And everything else is going digital, and we have that. Picture taken digitally of between that 13th and 14th.
That ribeye.
Stage and so forth, that size, we measure the fat, measure the area. That providing information for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with 100%.
Can you repeat what he said?
All right, you're doing home processing.
Yep.
But you're taking the carcass to the,
Our processor comes right to the farm and he's,
Custom exempt, but he's doing on-farm harvest.
yeah.
okay, so he's got a processor.
The animal leaves our place quarters,
All right, so,
behind quarters, front quarters and so forth. We could have a cut made in such a manner that we could see the size of that steak, the thickness of that fat. And since we're doing individual animals, we'll know when it was born, how many days of age it was and so forth. Our only problem is they're all being fed out there at one time and stuff, so we might not be able to get a average daily gain stuff. And we've got 200 acres, almost 200 acres of pasture and so forth, wooded and open. And the pasture mix has been told to us by the NRCS office what will work with our soils. Because what works in our soils doesn't work in southern Minnesota, in northeastern Iowa, or up here in the Iron Range country and stuff. So areas you can raise good grass, alfalfa mixes are different than those that we can only raise grasses and stuff. But I can raise tremendous orchard grass on my farm. And I can get my protein on that in a bale, so.
So generally, the question is, they're processing, they have the processor come to their place and process the beef.
Yes.
And then it goes off the farm in quarters, front and rear quarters. And then the question is, well, could I have that measured, my ribeye area, measured between 12 and 13 rib on the carcass? Yeah, you certainly could. Would a picture be sufficient to document the size and the marbling?
You can always have that 6-inch scale there.
Yeah.
Right, right.
And that can be computer generated up to the size.
So with the scale on the picture to tell you exactly what the size was, definitely could be done, especially in this day and age, right, where everything we do is digital. It seems like you could even scan the digital picture and come up with calculations to say that this.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're there yet, but it doesn't seem like it should be that hard to get there for the.
They can do it in kitchen countertops.
And that's why I suggest maybe having these.
And we can share the whole food control. This is the animal, this is the bull that this animal's out, and this animal are all on the bull. And this is the age that they produce this and stuff, so.
Right. Are you registered?
We've got both, so,
Yeah.
and we've got crossbred, so.
Yeah, and so I think this is one of the arguments for registration, is to be able to trace back to those for outsiders who can farm, to be able to trace back to those genetics and say those genetics produce where if you're, let's say you have crossbreds or unregistered, but you know that bull is producing, well, you know it, but no one else knows it. And so, yeah, and I think sharing, one of the things we don't share information very well either, right? And so just like the data that's publicly published is made so hard to look at that it's kind of useless. But so you're good.
So, yeah.
No, I was just.
Oh, you're just playing with it. Yes.
Beyond birth and weaning, what's a good schedule for weighing out bulls?
How often? Okay, birth and weaning are very important. And it's a problem, right? Not everybody has a scale. Scales are expensive. And so, that's another problem, I believe, with our databases. A lot of that data that's in there is estimates, right? Well, I don't have a scale, but he's 56 pounds. You know, that's what's going on, yearly weight, probably not. So.
I would argue that your best investment is scale, and they're come down price. I mean, you can get decent parts.
So that's a good suggestion then. A scale is important for these men. So how often should I measure my bull or weigh my bull? I started weighing mine. My scale right now, but I started weighing mine once a month because I was on a feed program. Well, I got a show, right? So I'm on a feed program and I started them out at like 5 pounds a day and then 5 pounds twice a day. And so you go a month and so now I put, let's say it's 10 pounds a day for 30 days, 300 pounds. So I put 300 pounds of feed into them. I put them on the scale and I say, you gained 50 pounds. This is not working, right? So what's not working? You got, at that point, I was like, those are true numbers, but I did have an experience where I was feeding and I wasn't getting the gains I was looking for. It wasn't 2 or 3 pounds a day. I was like in the ones. And so I had to look at, am I not feeding enough? So I upped the feed. But climate had, like in our case, I'm in southern Missouri, it was hot up for the summer.
Mhm.
And they just weren't gaining over the summer. So it depends, but my feeling is if you got a scale and you could do it, if you have to weigh the whole herd, you got 40 animals, well, that's a problem, right? That's a chore.
That's why I say bulls.
But yeah, if you have like in my case, I just had a couple show bulls that I wanted to monitor, or heifers. Heifers, same thing. You're putting feed into them. You want to know how well they're converting that. And maybe it's one of the things I talked to my vet about this a little bit. One of the things he told me is change the grass. Because if they're filling up on grass that's not great quality, then they're not going to gain because they're not eating their feed. And so one of the things I found is I can't eat well because it's food. And so whether that was heat or they're full up on bad grass, whatever, I don't know. But so just make those subtle changes to try to tune. And then talk to the screens because they seem to know how to feed them. Yeah,
So
so-
yeah, weaning birth or birth weaning yearly,
Yes,
that we should all be doing, show or not show. Yearly then,
yeah.
beyond that,
How many bulls are you gonna keep?
Those are the 3 data.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. I mean, they're not, to me, those are interesting data points, but those aren't the data points I'm interested in. The data point I'm interested in is, let's say that 1,200 pounds is my target weight for a steer to market. That's my target weight. But the data point that I'm interested in is how quickly can I get there? And then the data point is what cost? Right? For beef production. But and I would argue in that case, even show is important because typically the bigger animals, the fatter animals are going or in being the top tier. They're gonna be sorted into the top, the fattest, biggest.
follow-up question then, with that, when should you ultrasound? If you want to bring a tech on the farm and start this process, what's the right age to?
Yeah, see, I don't know, but I want to do that, and I would like to do, like, I would say maybe once a year.
And at least a year old or even younger.
Well, they're ultrasounding all the bulls in stock show. What, is that data useful on an intermediate year, bull? I mean, intermediate bull, yeah. I would argue maybe not. The data point that I'm interested in those younger bulls is their daily gain. Right, their ribeye still developing, the back fat is probably not even a factor because they're not growing back fat because they're just growing. And same with marbling. Right, we see if you look at the trends, the marbling shows up as they get older. So I think my belief is once they kind of reach skeletal size, then the marbling starts coming on. And so, so maybe as a yearling, if I was going to do a program, maybe I would look at my weanlings and pick who's going to be a steer and what I might keep for a bull. And at that point, maybe as a yearling, start the protocol. I'm going to ultrasound this guy and see what he looks like. I mean, having that data even as a yearling bull gives you confidence that you're doing the right thing, right? If you get a ultrasound, you look at it, you compare it to the data, you go, I'm not doing the right, this is not a good decision because he's way in the wrong. of the things that, are we gonna look at the dashboard? We have it?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, when we get to it, one of the things you'll see in there comes down to, I don't remember this chart. Did we talk about, do you have a plan?
Talk about what?
Do we have a plan?
No.
Does anybody remember that chart? It was in the NCHCA chart, but I had a chart that said, okay, we've got all this data, what's the plan? And so each farm needs to have a strategy. Every time I sold animals to a new Highland owner, I always ask them, hey, what's the plan? And they'd be like, well, I just want a few Highlands. That's how I started out, right? I just want a few Highlands, they're cool. And so, but two turns into four, and four turns into eight. And next thing you know, you're overrun. This is the one I want to talk about. Yeah, thank you. So this, did we talk about this? Does anybody remember seeing this before? No? All right, so the first thing is I pulled this out of the bagpipe, 2011. There's a guy named Dr. Wells. Anybody remember? And he was saying, this is the diversity I was talking about. And when you look at these show animals, you got to consider what program they're coming off of, and are they going to work on your program? So you get a bull that's coming off a show regimen, and you stick him out on fescue in Missouri, he's going to fall apart. And you should expect that. And you should not, if that's what you do, you can't blame that on the breeder or the seller. That's not his fault. That's just the way it is. So that's one of the things he was pointing out there. So what is your farm strategy or objectives? What are you trying to accomplish? And so you may have a hybrid of these, or you may just have one. So depending on what it is, some of these things, like if you're doing maybe grief preservation, yard art, you may not really care about size and average daily gain and all that stuff, but you want a really cool looking animal, good horns, good hair, all that stuff. So the factors we're looking at here may not be that important to you. Regenerative grazing definitely is. I'm not sure that you want the biggest Highland cows we have in the breed if you're running a regenerative program. You want smaller, cleaner animals that are you can have more per acre that tear up the ground, whatever. Beef program we talked about. And then the next slide, can we look at the next slide? This is the quote from the Canadian Breeders Guide, but this is where he's talking about a single trait. In this case, he's talking about the show trait, influencing how the breed develops because everybody flocks to limited edition. And so we have cookie cutter and you don't have any diversity in the breed. And eventually it's going to become a problem.
Take a break. Yep. We're gonna take a break
We'll take a
and
break.
come back and look at the dashboard.
There's, in the hallway here is lemonade and iced tea and some snacks. So grab a little snack and move around a little bit. Yep. So we should maybe leave some time though, try to figure out how to leave some time for a roundtable discussions.
Yeah. You think that's probably gonna be the best plan is to try to squeeze that in
We
there?
gotta find out, does he have something he wants to say in closing before we move to the roundtable?
So what time
We should probably do.
give me a time? Yeah.
So does he have more that he needs to say? I guess I
Sounds
gotta
like
find out.
the dashboard for me,
Yeah.
be interesting to hear, like, for instance, Jenny's question on her bull
Yeah.
and STR Encore to actually see how that.
So if we
operates.
get back, let's say we get back at 3. So if we get back at 3, I gotta find out from him, could he take us with questions and answers at least until 3:30?
Oh, I would think so.
Would think so.
Half an hour? For sure.
So then if we go 3 to 4, that's perfect.
Then we go.
And then we go right into doing some raffles, doing the auction, be perfect. So if you can take us to 4 o'clock, let's ask him for that. 3 to 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we can do the, all of this stuff. again.
and our auction.
We could,
All that's before dinner. Cause then we do dinner,
because then all that's closed out. We don't have any more bookkeeping stuff.
relax, network, and then we've got, the bar is open at 4:30.
We've had nobody this last session, so maybe I'll just stop streaming.
Yeah. Are you